I very much welcome the Minister's statement and the opportunity to contribute to this important debate. With respect to the rights and the wrongs of this government and previous governments challenging the case, personally I wasn't a member of the Oireachtas in those days, so I do defer to the experts on tax law and international tax law, and I believe some of those experts are in this House and especially sitting across the floor from us here. Minister Chambers said in his remarks that this is a real opportunity to invest in our future, and I want to use my speaking time, which is precious and limited in this House, to talk about the future rather than the past and the potential for this windfall to develop our country for the better. And I am surprised that colleagues across the House didn't use their time for those purposes, with perhaps the exception, I think, of Deputy Nash of Labour. It's predicted that the population of this country will grow by about 1 million people in the next 15 years or so. And I think most in the House agree that it is in Ireland's interest that the expected population growth and the distribution of it across the island should be guided, at least to some extent, by decisions of government. If government, by contrast, takes a hands-off approach or even just a reactive approach to managing the development and growth of the country, then we're always going to be chasing ourselves and always dealing with crises that we might have avoided had we been more strategic, perhaps less conservative in our predictions, more ambitious in our targets, and far more far-sighted in our spending decisions. The challenges in housing, health, energy and transport are to some degree or other fuelled by a failure of ambition to be strategic and a failure to be far-sighted. We find ourselves needing 60,000 new homes a year, not 30,000 as we thought. In my home city of Limerick, at the heart of the Midwest region, we probably need another Model 4 hospital, not simply an extension to the bed blocks in the one that we have. We need electricity infrastructure to support industrial, commercial and residential development like we never predicted. And the same goes for our water and our wastewater infrastructure. We need to build road and rail lines, it seems, now, but we're only deciding to do so when the traffic is backed up or the carriages are at capacity. The decision on what to do with the windfall that is coming to us, that is the Apple billions, must be informed firstly by the need to be far more strategic about how our country develops, and secondly by the real opportunity that we have to rebalance our island. The last 10 years have seen unprecedented economic growth in this country, and while this is very welcome, it has given us many challenges, some of which I've mentioned before, and some of which the Apple windfall, subject to a decision of government, might provide us the money we need to resolve them. But it's not just about money, Minister, it's about having a good plan. And unfortunately, we do not have a good plan. And going through government at the moment is the National Planning Framework Review, and we expect a decision will be made on that soon. And the ambition just is not there in the NPF review as it currently stands with respect to the population targets that are set for the regional cities of Waterford, Cork, Galway and indeed my home city of Limerick, or indeed the Limerick-Shannon axis. The population targets that are in that review should be revised, because if they're not revised, they won't justify the kind of investment that this Apple money could pay for, that could lead to fast population growth and economic growth in our regional cities. It is critical that those population targets are revised before the final NPF is published. I think it was Deputy Boyd Barrett talked about a shopping list, and it was Deputy Barry actually talked about not having a shopping list. I do have a shopping list. It's called the Strategic Rail Review, and it sets out a path for the development of rail in this country. I see Deputy Canny opposite taking interest because I firmly believe the Western Rail Corridor, which Deputy Canny has soldiered on over many, many years, should be invested in and built as a matter of priority for this government. And it shouldn't just be the Western Rail Corridor as far as Claremorris, and I know Deputy Canny will agree, it should extend onto Sligo as well. We have incredible ambition in the Midwest for growth, but that growth can only happen if we build a metropolitan railway system connecting Shannon Airport, as is supported by the Strategic Rail Review, and which can be paid for using the Apple money, It's costed in the Strategic Rail Review at around €200 million. It can be built in 5 or 6 years. It should be one of the highest priorities of government to build this infrastructure, to set the Midwest on a path of fast growth supported by metropolitan rail development, where rail will open up land for housing development, high density, high quality, affordable housing for our own citizens, for young people and for people who would move to the Midwest region as well. This is set out in the Strategic Rail Review, and the Apple money can support the development of this infrastructure, and not just in the Midwest, in Galway, in Cork and in Waterford. This money, this windfall accruing to Ireland, represents a huge opportunity to rebalance our island, and the way to do it as fast as possible is to invest in rail infrastructure. And I think it's worth mentioning that when we make decisions about investments, state and public investments in this country, we bend over backwards to show that they shouldn't be made. And I think there's a case to be made for a relaxation of the rules around public spending because this infrastructure is fundamentally good. It will cause the growth and development of our regions and our regional cities and a rebalancing of this country, which is not just good for outside of the M50, it's good for inside the M50 too. We have a situation where our capital city is creaking at the seams, where it is bloating, where young people can't afford houses, we can't build houses quickly enough, we don't have the infrastructure to support the development of more houses. The answer is to rebalance our island, and this windfall that is accruing to this country should be used to that end. And that is, of course, allowing for the rules around fiscal spending. I think there's important rules, and those constraints are there for a reason. But we have to accept that this kind of infrastructure is fundamentally good and should be pursued as a priority of the government, and that's the opportunity we have now, Gormagat.